close. So there's three things I want you to be able to walk away with. One is, well, actually, before I get into that, there's something that's really important to say. All this stuff about modes being like you have to start on a certain note and follow this formula and end on a certain note, forget that for a second. The whole thing about modes, to really gain an understanding of it, is how that scale sounds against a chord, right? So it needs to be put in context. You know, by itself, if you play something, it doesn't really have context, right? It just sounds like a scale. It sounds a little bit strange. But if there's context, once you put it in the context of the chord, then it starts to really make sense. So I want us to get used to, and I'm going to demonstrate this, the sound of these scales against either just a single note, which is actually really eye-opening. You can change the tonality of your playing against one single note, or against a chord, you know, more specifically that it would go against. So that's the first thing to understand. So the three things to take away from today. One, what does the sound of this mode make you think of? How does it make you feel? What does it evoke? Because each mode has a characteristic. It has like an emotional stamp on it. And the reason why that's important is because if you're either improvising or you're writing and you have a certain sound that you want to try to, you know, portray, or you want to set that sound in motion, it's important to know the identity of different modes. Like if I use this one, this song is going to sound really happy. You know, if I use this one, the song is going to sound kind of melancholy. If I use this one over this chord, it's going to be like more metal sounding or whatever. It's important to know that. So that's step number one. How do these modes make us feel? It's a little bit like abstract, but we'll go over that. The second idea is what are the notes within that mode that are making it sound different than the other ones? Sometimes it's just one note, and sometimes it's two. All right? The important thing about that is when you're soloing, you want to try to target those notes so that you can hear the tonality of the mode. If you avoid those notes, it's not going to sound like the mode. So what are the essential key target notes that make that note specifically, you know, individual? And the third thing is, and this is my favorite thing of all, is how to get to it as quickly as possible. Because the worst thing is, like, if you're playing a chord and you're like, let's say you have the sound in your head, you know the target notes, but you're like, oh, what was the formula again? You're like, you know, you don't know how to get to it. So instead of thinking about formulas and all that, I have a method where I simply relate the mode I want to play to either a major or a minor key. And then I just play in that key. So I don't even think about shapes, or I think about shapes. I don't even think about formulas and keys. All I think about is the major or minor key that I'm playing over. It's really an easy way to do it. It's a total shortcut. And if you guys are comfortable playing in major and minor keys, this should be pretty easy. If you're still working on that, then once you get that into your hands, this will become incredibly easy. And the minor thing you can even make easier because, you know, the pentatonic scale comes from a minor scale. So you can even relate a mode back to a pentatonic scale, and then you're golden. That's even easier. So let's break it down. I'll show you what I mean. So the first thing is let's talk about the feelings. You know, what the sounds of these modes make you, how they make you feel. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to stay on only like two root notes or pedal tones. One is E and the other is A. We'll make this very guitar centric. So for the E one, so major, right? That's Ionian, it's called. That's the first one. It's major. It's just a major scale. Everybody knows it's probably the most familiar one, right? The sound of it. I'll have some fun. Let's see. So, do it this way. Sorry. major sound, right? So how does that sound to everybody? How would you describe that?
Happy.
Happy. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, that's a good sound. It has like a pretty sound to it, right? So happy, pretty, mellow. I mean, mellow. I was playing mellow, right? So part of that is like the context of the style, right? But yeah, you could make it sound mellow, sure, if you want to have something. You know, also major is something that you can very easily make sound very uplifting. You know, that whole sound, you know. Stylistically, it's kind of pop, right? Country. You can also make it sound kind of proggy, you know, very easily. It's just the chord voicings, right? Of it and make it kind of sound proggy. So that's good. So we got kind of our heads are all wrapped around the sound of a major scale. I guess what I'll do is I'll cover all 3 points in one as we're talking about each one. So for major, really you just need to know how to, you have to know how to play a major scale all over the fretboard. And as far as the notes to target, what's making it sound major, for a lot of these, the root and the fifth are going to be just natural, you know, perfect. Like the root, the tonic, and then that perfect fifth. So it's going to be like this sound. There's only one where it's a flat 5, but for most of them, that's going to be constant. So that doesn't really help you identify the mode. But what does is that the major scale has a major third in it. That's really important. So this. So in the case of E major, it's going to be a G sharp. So if you're playing something and you're just playing root fifth, it could be anything until you hit that major third. That could be minor very easily. Alright, so until you hit the third, it doesn't have an identity. 7th. So those two notes, if you're going to play in major, target those two notes. So the 7th is going to be over here. So it's a D sharp. Major, remember major 3rd and major 7th. All right. Any questions about that? Good. We have an understanding already. Cool. Let's jump to another one of the major sounding modes. Okay, because basically the modes are broken down where there's 3 that are major, 3 that are minor, and 1 that's diminished. Right? So, did I get that right? That's 7, right? Yeah. Come on, Berkeley, kick in. So let's talk about another major sounding one. So this one is going to be Mixolydian. No, let's go to Lydian, because that's going to be the next one. So I'm going to play some Lydian stuff, and then you guys kind of tell me what it reminds you of. All right? So a whole bunch of ways. I'll try to do a bunch of different ways of doing this. That's a Lydian kind of sound. Anybody want to kind of shout out how you think it?
Dreamy. Mystical. Overture.
Mythical, overture.
Dreamy.
What's that? Peaceful but creepy. I like that. Yeah.
Adventurous.
What else?
Adventurous.
Adventurous, okay.
A little off.
Satriani-ish, yes. That's a good one. Vi-ish.
Vi-ish.
You guys use that a lot in their compositions. Those are all great words. What's that? Did you say bright?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And it's you know, if you play prod, you have to use that mode. It sounds like Dream Theater. There you go. It's one of my favorites. Actually, there's one that's a little bit. If you flat the 7, then it's really my favorite. Yeah, that's one of the best ones. But we'll stick with the major scale modes. So those are great words. You know, it also has like an unresolved kind of feeling to me, right? It feels like something's going to happen. It's like kind of foreboding or something. There's something about it. So those are great words. So if you guys want to express that kind of sound, then that's where you want to go. Lydian is your man. Let's talk about the target notes in Lydian. So it's really, really close to a major scale. There's only one note that's different, right? Sharp 4, very good. Yeah. It's also, they call it a sharp 11 or a flat 5, but it's basically, oh, I got something wrong before. I said there was only one mode that had a flat 5, but there's 2. Damn it. Why don't you guys correct me? So here it is. So the major scale, right? That was the first sound we did. Lydian, all you have to do is take this 5th, which is a B, and flat it. Ooh. As soon as you do that, it's like goosebumps. You ever notice it's always used in like soundtrack music, right? As soon as they do that Lydian thing. So it's really close to major. It's the only difference, right? So if you're playing an E, you're in major. Make it Lydian by flat only 5. Can't help but play like Joe when you use that. It's so fun. Anyway, that's what Lydian is all about. That's the vibe. So how do we get to it quickly? Here's my trick. So if you're playing in the key of E, in this case, all you have to do, there's 2 tricks you can do. If you just think of the major scale that's a 5th above, and play in that key. So in E, the 5th above is B. So if you just play in B major, you're pretty much golden. That's B major. But against the E, right? That's the whole vibe. You can go down a 4th as well. That'll get you to that B as well. So depending on where you are in the guitar neck, whatever's easy for you. But it's really, it's a good trick. If you're in B major, oh, I want to do Lydian, go down a 4th, it's F sharp major. Did I do it wrong? Am I right? Lydian is with C major. Hold on, let me check my notes. Well, here's what might be confusing about the way I'm teaching this. You're talking about where are you? There you are. You're talking about the traditional way of thinking of the modes, like that it's the 4th step or the 5th step. I'm talking about how to quickly just play in the major key. Yeah, that it comes from. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to think about the way you're thinking, so in this instance I use B as the key we're in, and I said all you have to do is go down a 4th to the and play in that major key. So B is the 4th chord of F sharp. That's why it works. Right, so this is like a shortcut thing, so don't get confused with the steps. Yeah.
If we're thinking C, which is the most flat, most sharp key, or playing G, which has an F sharp, then do sharp chords.
Exactly. That's exactly the mentality. Yeah. So you can think of it either way. If you want to think of it deeper, in a deeper theoretical way, you're relating that chord to what chord it is in its major key, like where it comes from. And that's fine. My thing is like, I want to quickly, what major key do I have to play in? Period. I was playing with Andy last night. We were doing Purple Rain. What key do I have to play in? And I'm in that key. So it's just a quick way of getting to it. Yeah.
So then, are you thinking about your target notes in the new key you're working on, or how are you remembering the target?
Okay, so I'm thinking about the new key, and I'm just playing in that key. But I always have to keep in mind what are the target notes as they relate to the key I'm in. That's really important. Yeah, so that's a good question. I guess it gets a little bit confusing. So in that case, I was in B, right? I related it back to F sharp major. But I still have to keep in mind that the target notes at B is going to be that sharp 11. Which is an F natural. And also the major third, right? The target notes, think about the key you're in, not the key that you're think about the key of the chord that you're playing against.
Totally.
Right? And not the key that you're actually playing in. I hope this isn't worse. I'm making it worse, right? How you doing, Josette? Is Raina here?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. I have a couple of chairs up here if you guys want to. Yeah. So let's move on. Any questions about Lydian at all? No? Okay, cool. Let's move on to Mixolydian. Again, like the sound of it. Let's talk about the sound. So I'll play we'll keep this in E. This is another major type of sound. So it's going to have a perfect fifth, which isn't major. I don't know why I said that. But it's going to have a major third in it. So let's talk about the sound of Lydian, how it makes us feel. So that's root fifth and the major third there. A major sound would be this. The biggest difference in this scale is that it has a flat 7. So that sound that's so signature in major, that gets changed to this. And that combination of the flat 7 and the major third, like this, that's called a dominant sound, right? And so that chord is a dominant 7. So if I play in that for a bit, Mixolydian sound. So let's talk about some thoughts about how it sounds. Yeah.
It sounds like Glasgow Kiss, like Celtic.
Glasgow Kiss, sexy?
Celtic.
Oh, I think it's sexy. Floaty? Alright, floaty is cool. Sexy, I'm going with sexy. Sexy, floaty, what else? Yeah, bluesy. Happy and bluesy at the same time. I like that. Yeah. Because the major is the happy And then that flatted seventh is what's kind of giving it that bluesy sound to it. Yeah.
Like festive.
Festive? Yeah, absolutely. It kind of like sounds. To me, it has like a Celtic sound, right? Like immediately. What?
Sounds like bagpipes.
Like bagpipes, yeah, exactly. Or Steve Morse songs. Or Glasgow Kiss. Yeah. I'm sorry? Relaxed? Cool. Yeah, it definitely has a relax. It doesn't have a feeling of unresolved, like Lydian had. You're right. It's kind of a little more settled. Yeah.
Like even majestic or very principal but unconclusive. Like it could keep going up.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So it sounds like it probably sounds like it can keep going on because it's not usually like that dominant sound is a 5 chord to another key. So it's almost like you're waiting for it to go there and it never does. So it's probably why it sounds like it can keep going on. So that's cool. So again, if you want to get that sound, then Mixolydian is the scale. Now it's also combined really well. It combines well with pentatonic, which the pentatonic will have notes that are outside of that scale, but when you combine them, it's a cool sound. All right, so I was doing that a little bit. So if you're in Mixolydian like that. Some E pentatonic, and then add in those mixo notes. Mixolydian and then the pentatonic of that key, the minor pentatonic. All right. What's that? It's tasty. Yeah, I think it makes, like, you have to make sure that the blues you're playing, well, I don't know why I shifted to blues, but if you're playing in a kind of bluesy sound, you have to make sure the blues you're playing in definitely has a majorness to it to use Mixolydian because it has a major third. Right? If you're playing in something that's more like, and you're like, it's going to be more minorish. You don't want to go, you're going to ruin it. Right? But if you're playing in something that definitely has that sound to it already, the flat 7 is already in the pentatonic, but it's that major third that's going to make it sound dominant, right? That sounds like Pink Floyd. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's do this. We go it's so like Floyd sounding. Mixolydian is not the only mode that goes well with pentatonic. The minor modes do as well, because it's kind of, you'll see it's within those scales. You can kind of actually make, if you use the right pentatonic, you can make it fit with any of them. But that's almost like a different lesson. Like if you use a major pentatonic in a major key, it's going to work. But that'll be the next key. Yeah. Okay.
Do you remember, just for now, if any Dream Theater song that comes to mind that's in Mixolydian, About to Crash, for example?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm the worst at remembering my own songs. I'm so bad. Like, I have to relearn my songs. But yeah, I think About to Crash has that because it's in E, but it automatically it's going to a D. As soon as you hit that D natural chord, you're in mixo right there. As long as you're in major, yeah.
Can you give an example for a song that's in Lydian dominant or art of D?
A song that's in Lydian dominant, I believe. Again, can I play it? No, but I believe on my solo album, I think Curve is Lydian dominant, right? I think so. How does that go? Another dimension? Right. It's a Lydian vibe there. Yeah. I should have done some research and gave you guys examples. Yeah. You learn, when you do these things. Yeah.
Wait, is Lydian dominant just Lydian with the dominant 7?
Yeah. Lydian with a flat 7, right? As opposed to the major. What's that? Repeat what I said. He was asking if Lydian dominant is just a Lydian scale with a flat 7, and I said yes. Who else has questions about Mixolydian?
Can you just say again what those target notes were in Mixolydian?
Sure. Basically, Mixolydian is a major sounding mode, so you want to target the major third for sure. That's what's going to separate it out from being minor. And the real key to Mixolydian is the flat 7, right? So that's going to be, in E is going to be a D. The interval that those two notes make is that actual flat 5. That's what gives you that kind of bluesy. What we just learned with those 3 major modes, you can very easily make something go from major, right? We're doing change the mood as you're playing. That's kind of fun if you get together with your friends and again, you have to kind of pick who's going to be the guy. Just be sitting there going. And you can practice changing the modes over. Yeah.
In the same way that you think of Lydian as being a fifth above, a major scale, a fifth
Yes.
above your root,
Yeah.
do you think of Mixolydian?
I do, and thank you for reminding me. Forgot to bring it up. So how do you get to it quickly? So I'm gonna check my notes. I think it's just the opposite. Yeah. So Lydian, Mixolydian, you just think of the major scale that's a fourth above. Right? So in this case, I'm playing an E, and I'm thinking of A major. But over the E. It's really A major. But the E over it. Yeah, so a fourth above is really quick. If you want to do a fifth below, you can do that as well. That'll get you to that key. All right, let's talk about the minor mode. So first, starting with natural minor. So natural minor is it's relative to it comes from a major key. Then there's a major key and it's natural minor. So let's switch to A for this. So it's going to be A minor, and it comes from C major. So all the notes are going to be natural notes, and let's talk about the sound of it. So I'll play some things in regular old A minor. So. Sorry. Alright, so that's A minor. So I went out of the key a little bit, sorry about that. But let's talk about how that sounds and makes us feel. What do you guys think? Yeah. Subtle, do you say? Sorrow, yeah, definitely. Sorrow, yeah.
Very open sound.
Open sounding, cool. Part of that is also the way I'm playing, right, with those ringing notes. It's a really good way to get that open sound. What else do you guys think? I think sad. It's like just sounds sad. Yeah. That's just minor. That's natural minor. Okay? I think Metallica ballad. Right? Natural minor sounds Metallica ballad to me. You know? It sounds like it just could be like. That sounds minor to me. It's also great, like for, you know, if you're just playing along and you're in normal kind of minor soloing land, it's like perfect for that. Combines great with minor pentatonic. Right, that's minor sound. Yeah, it's sad. It's fun. It's actually fun to play in. prefer playing in minor than major, probably, right? It's kind of more rock, more metal. Let's talk about the keynote. So it's a minor mode, so that means the difference between all the major modes, the biggest difference as far as a target note is that it's going to be, it's going to have a flat third. So that's what makes it minor. So if I'm in A, and I'm just, again, playing the root fifth, that could be anything until I play that minor third, right? So in this case, it's going to be a C, so as soon as you play the C, now it's minor. Number one target note. It also, in this case, has a flat 7, which is different than the major key, except for Mixolydian. So that's another one. So if you're an A. But I would say the number one target note in that key is the minor third. All right. As far as how to relate it back to the major key that it came from, I guess there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can either, if you're on the root note of that key, and you just chromatically play 4 notes up, like this, you're going to get to C major, you're going to get to a C. So this chord is coming from C major. That's a really quick way of getting to it. I'm in A minor. What's the major key I have to play in?
C.
It's going to be
The related chord.
C. What?
Oh, the related chord.
Yeah, exactly. It's the natural minor to C. So anyway, any questions about that one? That's pretty basic. Cool. All right, so let's talk about the other 2 minor modes and how to differentiate those and how those make us feel. All right, so let's talk about Dorian. So if I play some Dorian stuff, it's going to sound like this. Let's see. Like what?
It's the Carlos Santana chord.
Can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Santana.
Oh, Santana chord? Ah, never thought of it that way. Cool. Yeah.
Anticipated.
One more time?
Anticipated.
Anticipated. That's cool. Absolutely. Yep, back there.
Like longing?
Longing, yeah, it definitely has that sound. It sounds pretty, something about it sounds like rainy day or something to me. This, when, as soon as you hit that, like, that note in there. It also has a slightly, like, it sounds like it's going to be dominant, like, until you hit the minor third. It almost sounds like it wants to go. Kind of a sad vibe. It still has a minory sound. You know,
Not quite set.
not settled?
Not quite set.
One more time. I'm so deaf. Like, it's so bad. I feel so.
Not quite set.
Not quite sad. I gotcha. So it's like not as sad as minor.
Yeah.
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 Right. So minor is a really melancholy, and this has like something about it that takes it a little away from that. I hear you. It also, in a way, I guess you know how Lydian has that kind of that one note that's like ooh, like this almost has that sound too, right? You're just regular minor, and all of a sudden you get that feeling. Yeah.
Like trial by fears, similar to that?
Yeah, it has that vibe, sure. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it's about right. There you go. It also works really well with pentatonic as well, and a bluesy kind of sound. But what the difference is, what you have to do is you have to avoid, when we were doing the dominant thing, you have to avoid the major third. So this one has a minor third. So if you're playing in more of a bluesy way, so. And then you add in the Dorian sound. In this case, it's going to be adding in an F sharp. Adding Dorian into like blues and rock like that is a really cool thing. Yeah.
It kind of sounds like funky, jazzy, or
Yeah.
like medieval sounding.
Totally. Yep. Has a funky, jazzy vibe. Actually, I'm glad you said that because that's a great way to describe it. It adds a jazziness to your playing. You know, if you're just playing regular old pentatonic. Even if you're doing like a minorish kind of thing. As soon as you add that note in, it's gonna. Yeah, it gets jazzy for sure.
It's not medieval, like
Medieval.
music. Like
Ah, okay, cool. Medieval music, medieval jazz. So let's talk about two things: the target note, and then what to relate it back to. So in this case, it's basically the same thing as a minor scale, which would be this. The only thing is you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sixth note is raised. Right? So in the way that in minor you want to emphasize the minor third because that's what makes it sound minor, right? The big note you need to emphasize here is that raised sixth note. So that's what's going to give it that sound. So if you don't hit that note, it's never going to sound like it. And anyway, that's the target note. And as far as how to get to it quickly, this one's really easy. All you have to do is go down a whole step and think of that major key. So I was in A minor. If you go down and think of playing in G major, you got it. Right? So just playing in G major all day long. Or even easier, you can think of like E minor if you can relate it that quickly. It's really. All right, any questions about Dorian and that kind of thing? whole step down. Yeah, that's just a Dorian. Yeah. Yeah, think of the major scale, a whole step down, you'll have it. That's the only one that does that. Alright, cool. What are we up to?
We're on
Phrygian. We only have two more. So Phrygian. So the next two, these are these are the darker sounding ones, I would say. These are the ones used more like in metal and stuff like that. Although they can sound jazzy as well, which we'll talk about. Yeah.
What's your favorite mode to use?
My favorite mode to use, I like the Lydian sound. I think it's just a cool sound. It just sounds like epic. You know, like you guys were saying before, has a kind of mystical, epic thing. And plus, I want to sound like Steve Vai, so I want to sound like Steve Vai. All right, so Phrygian we're talking about. So we'll say an A. Let's see. So well until I hit that B natural. Don't do that. All right, so talk about the sound. I was playing obviously in a metalish way, but what do you guys think about the sound of it?
It's got almost like an operatic type.
Operatic, sure, definitely. It's definitely dramatic for sure. Yeah. Spanish. Oh, absolutely. Totally Spanish. Yeah.
Tool and El Viola.
Tool and El Di Meola. I think there's definitely like an ethnic thing, right? I mean, you said Spanish, so it has like an exotic kind of. What do you think?
Oriental.
What do you think?
Oriental.
Yeah, it kind of has that sound a little bit.
Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. Dragons, cool. Epic battle scenes, Game of Thrones with dragons. Nice, I love that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. I was playing in a style that was kind of like. Yeah, exactly. And now Ingve always does that Phrygian dominant where there's, right? Yeah. Or there's a major third there. But anyway.
Very like metalcore.
Yeah.
And you feel like the dissonance.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's going to be a flat 5 in there as well, because there's a flat 2 and then the major fifth. The perfect fifth. It's like I can't help but play like metal. Yeah.
My mom was pure Castilian Spanish, and I listened to nothing but flamenco music when I grew up.
Really?
And that is all over that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, flamenco always has that kind of sound, right? The big thing with that, it's a minor mode, right? So talking about target notes, it's definitely. Now I wasn't really targeting it too much, but it is a minor. mode, so it's going to have that flat 3 sound to it. But the big thing on this one is that flatted second, right? That's what makes it give its character. So it's basically it just means it has a half step above the root, and that's what gives you the flamenco sound, the metal sound. So as soon as you go like this, you can literally just play the root, the flatted second, and the fifth, and like you're there, right? Yell at my guitar. So that would be the definite target note. As far as how to get there quickly, I guess you could think of this as just I was in A over here. If I think a major third below really quickly, right there. You do 2 ways. I guess you can put your 4th finger on the note and then just think down 2 whole steps. So basically I was playing an F major, right? It's funny how the scale by itself sounds like the key it's in, right? If I just play it doesn't sound like anything, but as soon as I put an A below it, all of a sudden we have our mode. So that's why I was talking about in the beginning that it's so important that you hear the stuff against a chord or a note. Really, really crucial to grasp and understanding. Otherwise you're just like talking about formulas. Oh, root, flat 2, minor third. It gets boring. Yeah.
If you're in the key of A, instead of now you go 1 half step to A sharp. So instead of C, what happens when you go to C sharp? Does that change the mode or?
Instead of C, if I go to C sharp in A, yeah, it's totally going to change it's going to change it to major, which is going to be like you're talking about like that. I mean, that's built off the harmonic minor scale, so that's where that note is coming from. And then you're really, if you want to take it to the next sort of metal exotic Ingray level, then
you're not in Phrygian mode anymore. So what is that called?
It's what is that called? Phrygian dominant, I think. Yeah, Phrygian dominant. Yeah, it's a jam. I mean, it just takes it to that next level where now, if you're playing in that. Oh, I put a Lydian. That was cool. I mean, what did I do? Did I do a Lydian? A Lydian dominant? You can kind of get fun. Once you get into that land, then you start to get that sort of exotic sound. Fun with modes. All right, any questions about that one? You guys are awesome. That only leaves one. Locrian. The weirdest one, right? The one nobody uses? I use Locrian. I don't know. I'm not human. Let me tell you how human I am. breakfast this morning. I'm not feeling very human. I need some eggs or something. Yeah, so this one, I don't know. I'm going to show you how you can use this one. It definitely, I have my own thoughts on how it sounds as far as the mood of it and where I think it's going. But if I play, let's see. Purposely played that progression and ended there because I wanted you to get a feeling about that chord and that scale. So what do you guys think? Not quite as dark. Yeah, I think Phrygian is darker. Yeah, I think Phrygian is darker. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think it has like there's something about it that like you can't quite put your finger on it, right? There's something going on there. Yeah. Dying to resolve. That's what I was looking for. And that's why I ended it where I did. Because it's like, come on. Damn it. You want to hear it end. Yeah.
Could the A section of Ministry of Lost Souls be okay?
Oh, I don't know. I have to listen to it. Well, that would be like a fun thing if you guys can go back and kind of, now that we're talking about all this stuff, try to identify exactly what's going on. A lot of times when I write in Dream Theater and when the band writes, like we'll be in a certain mode, but we don't stay in it. So it'll be like somewhat in that mode, and then we'll go outside of it, to add some other notes in, instead of staying strictly in that one key. So it might be ish, it could be Locrian-ish. Any other thoughts about that one? Yeah, back there.
Seems to be telling a story.
Yeah, definitely. It's like has a storytelling vibe to it. To me, it's so jazzy. It has a jazzy vibe. Classical? Yeah. 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 Yeah, back there.
Sounds like Hollow Years.
Sounds like Hollow Years. Yeah. I mean, there's something like how minor and Dorian has that sort of like really rainy day thing. This one's like sounds extra melancholy. There's something about it that's like extra, like it's like aching, like if you're telling a story, and you use that chord. It's like so, like, come on. about it because you know, when you think about this scale, basically it's just to jump ahead really quickly to think about where it's coming from. You just think down a half step and think about that major scale. So because it's gonna like have so many, no, you have to think. Wait, did I say that wrong? You have to think a half step above. I'm sorry, and think about that major scale. So if I was in A, and I think about playing in B flat, so because it has all these goodies in it, as far as target notes, it's going to have a flatted second like Phrygian. But besides that, it has some extra goodies. Oh, it doesn't have, it does have that. So it's going to have the flat 5 in there. So we can go. So you can see how you can totally use it in metal for sure. And then what's cool, let me see something. That's what makes it cool, that it has a flat 7 too, so if you're playing a key, you can go down a whole step and use that chord as well. Yeah, easily has a rock metal, darker sound to it. Also, if thinking about the major key that's a half step above is too weird, like we're in B flat, who likes to play in B flat? There's another way. You do? All right, hey, you do too. All right, well, it's your instrument, right? No, that's different. You play like a flugelhorn or something. Yeah, close enough. You can think of the key a minor third below. You can think of a minor key a minor third below. Is that right? Think of a minor. Think of a. Let me get this wrong. Think of the minor key that's. Let's do it this way. The minor key that is a whole step below it. Yeah, that would work. Yeah. I really need practice. Yeah, so if I'm an A, let's get this right, guys. If I'm an A, and instead of thinking of the major key that's a half step above, which is B flat, if I just go a whole step below, which is really easy, and think about that minor key, I think it's easier to think about playing in G minor than it is to think about playing in B flat major, even though it's the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. And if you're playing in G minor, you can use G minor pentatonic, right? So check that out. That's kind of a cool trick. So G minor pentatonic has some of the target notes that we need, right? So basically what hopefully we did today is we got a handle on how do these modes make us feel, what are the musical styles they evoke, how can we use them if we want to, next time you're saying, I want to play something that sounds like exotic, maybe you're going to jump to Phrygian, or I have this cool soundtracky thing, let me use Lydian right away. Oh, this is really pretty, I want to keep it nice and light and happy, I'm going to use major, etc. Also, we talked about the target notes, so when you're playing those keys, which notes to definitely hit. If you don't hit those notes, it's not going to sound like the mode. And then third, even though I kind of confused myself, is just how to very quickly relate it to a scale. So when you're improvising on the spot, you don't have to think about formulas, you just have to think about a major key to go to. All right? With the PDFs that you guys got, there's a lot more information, so it's all there. If it's confusing in any way, it's confusing to me, but Even though I'm telling you, I'm trying to make it simple, it still can be a little confusing. But it's all, the information's in the PDFs, all right? And yeah, that's it. I will see you guys in a couple hours for the last one.